Today we're going to be talking with one of my personal favorite creators who recently went really big on YouTube when he was talking about the Murdaugh trials, because he has done a bunch of time in South Carolina in the same exact prison where dude is about to be. We had a really good time chopping it up about the differences of prisons coast to coast. And I'm pretty sure that y'all are going to love this dude just as much as I do, so kick your feet up and let's go! Everybody, we are here today with a special guest, man. We got Jumpsuit Pablo in the house today. I have been following this dude for a minute now. His content is incredible. I like his whole entire get down. Like, this dude is authentic with it. So we're really happy to have you today, Jumpsuit. What's up?
Thank you, man. What's up? Really appreciate you inviting me to do this. Hey, I'm ready.
Absolutely. So, like, in case there's people who don't already know who you are, even though you're kind of killing it right now all the way across the board, why don't you give people a little idea of, like, why you went to prison, what you went to prison for?
Yeah. Well, I went to prison when I was 21 years old for 2 armed robberies, some pretty dumb shit. But, they got a mandatory minimum of 10 years in my state, which is South Carolina. So I got a 10-year minimum sentence and served that in South Carolina state prisons.
Okay, excellent. So let's talk real quick about the childhood, because it's always cool to reach back and kind of get a glimpse of, like, what that is like. Did you have, like, a good home? Were you, like, raised in, like, a home where there was a lot of, like, crime or drugs or anything like that? What's that look like?
Oh, man, no, I wasn't around any of that. My dad was a preacher, so pretty much a preacher's family growing up. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things where you're kind of sheltered and shielded from all that type of stuff, and then you get to a certain age, and that stuff starts looking real good and real fun, so you kind of just want to dip your toes in it, and then you end up dipping a little too much in it, and I'm gonna tell you what messed it up for me, man. It was Gucci Mane and Waka Flocka, man. When those guys came out and started dropping those hits, it fucked me up, man. I wanted to kick those too. I wanted to put goons on your mama too. You know what I mean? I wanted to do that stuff. That stuff sounded cool, so I started doing it, and it didn't last long. I got caught, and I went to jail.
Yeah, the reality of doing it is a little different than it comes across in the songs, right?
Yeah, and then I get to prison, and like 2 years later, I think I saw on like TMZ or something. Newsflash: Waka Flocka turns his life around and is no longer doing bad stuff, and he's living a great life. I'm like, well, fuck, that's great.
I got 8 years left. Good for you, Waka Flocka.
Well, shit.
So,
yeah.
Look, I find that really relatable because, like, I grew up in a really Christian home. You know what I'm saying? Like, my parents were really dialed. It was the best type of environment that I possibly could have had from my parents. They did everything they possibly could. I wasn't a PK, you know what I'm saying? But my parents were very involved with their church. And, I went to a Christian school growing up. And I think, like, the vast majority of the people that I went to school with, if I were to check on them today, like, the last times I checked with these people, they're not doing good, bro. Like, it's like a whole thing. Like, there's this dynamic that if you shelter a kid too much, they're going to go test some waters. And they might test them in a much more extreme way than somebody who had been exposed to certain levels to people.
Right. Exactly, dude. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it kind of just, you get that first taste and it's just, it all hits you at once and you just go way too fast and you eventually, you crash out pretty quick.
That deep end comes up quick to meet you sometimes.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
You did time in South Carolina. I did time in Oregon. And I keep trying to explain to everybody, even people who've been to prison don't seem to understand this, that, like, every single prison is different. In your state, from state to state, from state to fed, from privatized prison to state or fed-run prisons, they're all different. So I always like to talk about what some of the differences were. Let me ask you, like, is South Carolina one of those places where they have, like, all of the people with bad charges in PC, or are they mixed into GP and mainline? And, like, what's that dynamic like?
Well, first, I love that you said that, because you're absolutely right about that. And yeah, the people who have those type of charges, the terrible charges, you don't see them often in general population. They kind of keep those guys in all together in certain parts of the prison. You know what I mean? They know they're going to get hurt. I mean, it's their job to keep them safe. They can't just, if they put these guys in Gen Pop, they know something's going to happen to them. So even in the county jails, not even in, even county jails, they have designated cell blocks just for all those guys. So yeah, in prison, it's usually your character dorms or something like that on any given yard that they'll have those guys. They'll kind of group them in with, some big time snitches or something. Everybody who's just trying to make it through pretty much at that point, they'll just group them all together. Yeah. But you will catch a few, that somehow end up in Gen Pop, and who knows why that happened. But
yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you another question. In Oregon, the only thing that you're allowed to take from county jail to state prison with you is your legal paperwork. Like, you have the legal ability to take that with you, and it's like the only thing you take. So like, you get all the homeboys in county, you get them to write down their information in there so that you don't lose contact with them and everything. So when you land, you have your paperwork. Is it like that in South Carolina?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you don't get to take anything with you, but you can take your legal mail. So
yeah,
it's pretty much the same.
So do you guys run paperwork checks? I know that like you were there for a span of 10 years, so you probably saw like a more limited availability of cell phones all the way up to where it is now. Was paperwork checking relevant and became less relevant? How did that work?
I think it really only applies when you're talking like gang members and stuff, like your neutrals and your guys who are unaffiliated. I mean, they don't really care to run your paperwork, unless you're like a major, like you're really connected in on some business thing, and you're really like politicking with these gangs, and you're just that guy, then yeah, they'll be interested. But unless you're like, we're talking about someone trying to get affiliated or who is affiliated, and there's some questions or suspicions there, then yeah, they'll if you're in a gang, they'll run it. They'll look at your paperwork. But other than that, they don't.
Well, that makes a lot more sense if they're keeping all the pee-pee touchers, like the kitty diddlers, the diaper bandits. If they got them all locked down in different sections, there's not really that much of a reason to be checking, because, you're going to have to really dig to see.
And I thought you meant more like as far as if they snitched, like that type of paperwork check. Yeah, if it's something like that, if we're talking like making sure you don't have those type of charges, then yeah, they're probably not going to really end up there in the first place. But it's definitely nothing, like you said, to get on a contraband cell phone and just go to the inmate search for the prison and just look up all their charges. So that, and I'm pretty sure they do that. I mean, guys probably do that with their cellmates just to make sure, just to check them out, see what they're there for, make sure they didn't lie for some reason. Who knows.
Yeah, I fell in 2006, and in 2006, like, we didn't have cell phones in prison with Wi-Fi on them at all whatsoever. Like, that wasn't an availability. So we relied on that black and white. Like, we lived by our black and white. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, there's a huge culture shift as far as that goes. And, like, I'll talk about paperwork and then realize that I'm a boomer, because like a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about. They're like, I just got out. Nobody uses paperwork anymore. I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're probably right. So
right. Yeah, that is true. Everybody's got a smartphone, not even flip phones, because, it kind of went through a phase like when everyone else out here, before everyone had a smartphone, everyone had a flip phone or a BlackBerry or whatever. It's the same thing in prison. Everybody started out with the flip phones and stuff, but now it's everybody's got they don't even want a flip phone anymore. Where I'm from, they want the smartphone. They want to get on Facebook. They want to get on Snapchat. They want to get on TikTok. They want to get on YouTube and play their music. They want to go live. They want to get girls on video chat. It's all about those cell phones.
Absolutely. And like back when I was there, like we had a few flip phones on every compound, you know what I'm saying? Because we would just be doing calls to our people to try to arrange drops, bro. It was all about them drops. But there's so much more availability of access to the world now with the smartphones. But back then they were dropping 5-year charges on you for an escape charge if you got caught with a cell phone. What are they doing in South Carolina if you get caught with a phone? Is it just a DR? Is it an outside charge?
The only time they're going to give you the outside charges if it's like actually, like if you get caught with hard drugs, methamphetamine, stuff like that. Now, if you get caught bringing it in or trying to get it in, that can be, I think that's a street charge too,
Introducing
conspiracy
contraband?
Yeah. Introducing contraband into a facility. But like if you get caught with tobacco, I mean, it's not a drug, so they can't really hit you with a street charge. But cell phones, same thing. It's not an illegal item in America, so they don't charge you with a street charge. As far as I know, and I got caught with a lot of cell phones over my years. So I think my first time, usually your first time, if you just hadn't been catching all type of other disciplinaries, they might take your canteen, your visits, and your phone privileges for anywhere from 30 to 60, 90 days. But if you get caught with another, I think within 6 months or maybe a year, you're definitely going to solitary for about 30 days. The first time be 30 days, and then it just it doubles every time after that, 60 days, 90 days, so forth.
So you were there for 10 years. Did you ever go to solitary?
I did. I went one time. I got caught with so many phones in like a month. It was like I didn't even have time to go in front of the disciplinary board for the first one by the time I got caught with the third one. I just had a terrible month that month. So by the time I did go, I was just like, I know I'm going to solitary, So they put me in there for 30 days, and I ended up staying 45 days because it was so overcrowded on the yard. They didn't even have any available beds for the guys who were, their time was up on solitary and it's time to go back onto the yard in Gen Pop. They didn't even have any open spaces. So I had to stay there for about 45 days before I could even get a bed.
They were overcrowded like that. They had that many people packed in there.
Yeah. This was, and I think this was right before, or maybe a year before COVID. So I know it wasn't because of that. I think it was, they were making some big moves on the yard. They would do this thing at prisons, like when there's a problem, there's an excess of contraband, and these guys are, scoring a little too much and, having too many W's, There's obviously some guys that we need to get away from each other. These guys are working together too well. So they'll kind of all, how names float around the yard. Staff has a general idea of who's at least in the game and doing what. So I think they rounded up like 60 of the known inmates who were responsible for playing some part in getting contraband on the yard, and they rounded those guys up and moved them. And I think there was a couple of yards doing that all at once. They were trying to do this big shift, so you had a lot of just transfers going around, and you ended up with just an excess of inmates. And yeah, so for about 2 weeks there, they didn't even have beds open.
Wow. So were you on a max yard, medium yard, min?
I was on a medium because I had 10 years. So I would have had to get caught doing some pretty bad stuff to go to a max. But I stayed on medium, which I think medium more closer to max than it is to minimum, on most of those yards. But, there's definitely different levels of medium as far as, this yard's a little more dangerous. This yard's known to be a little more privileged or easygoing. But, yeah, I went to several different mediums.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird because in Oregon, it doesn't really matter that much about what your charges were. It's really it's about your custody level, and charges can be one component of that, but your institutional behavior can be another one. If you have an STG jacket, the security threat group, if they determine that you're in a gang, they're probably not going to give you a shot at minimum without some clear conduct. So it's kind of wild that I fell with, a short enough sentence to start off at minimum first day. And I had no institutional history for them to look at, but they dubbed me as a gang member. So they sent me to a medium immediately. And it was like the gladiator school. But since they marked me down as a gang member for a gang that I wasn't in, they started selling me up with that gang. And it was a perfect fit. It was like they were making a match, bro. It was like Match.com. They really did a great favor for me. What's up with gangs in South Carolina?
Well, I think one of the biggest surprises to people, and again, you can tell me how it is where you are too, because I think most people assume that there's, that the gangs are just the race-based prison gangs, everywhere. And that's that it's the opposite in South Carolina, and it's weird because you would think, oh, South Carolina, country, rednecks, white people. You'd probably think, it's nothing but race divided in South Carolina, but it's not. All you have is the Bloods, the Crips, and of course, like the Pyrus, there'll be some of those, but Bloods, Crips, and GD. And you always got Muslims turn up in their whole own way, but yeah, that's really the main three you got. And of course, white people can be GD, and all the little branches off of GD, and you got a few white Crips, and other than that, yeah, there's no like white gangs and just all black gangs, or their whole coming together is based on the fact that they're this race. There's none of that.
Yeah, it was weird in Oregon, at least, and like I said, like it's been since 2010. It's 2023 now, so I haven't been in actual prison, like on a yard, in 13 years. But when I left, there were like 7 different white gangs. There were every different race had their own gangs, and there was a couple of mixed race gangs. And I will tell you what, bro, I saw 2 or 3 white dudes that were in the Bloods or the Crips, and those dudes worked harder, put in more work, had to get bloodier and messier and hit that yard harder than anyone else on the yard, bro. Like if you saw a white Blood or a Crip, he had to earn his bones over and over and over again. Oh, yeah. Those dudes got muddy with it.
They do, and you're so right about that, man, because it's like, that's why if you see a widely accepted white gang, like white Blood or white Crip or something, that he's with it, because I feel like I always used to say, like, if just a general unknown black guy walked into a cell block, he would automatically have a bit higher of benefit of the doubt, at least as far as giving respect as to what he'd do or how hard he'd go in comparison to a white guy. They're immediately going to count a white guy out, I feel like. And you got to, every drop of the hat, you have to go to the max as a white guy. You're going to have to prove yourself every single time and go as hard as you can, just to keep up, just to keep in that, So yeah, like you said, when you find when you come across one of these white Bloods or white Crips or something, they're probably going pretty hard.
In South Carolina, were you able to buy your own TVs? Were you able to buy your own guitars? Did you have the availability to get higher ticket items?
Damn, I never heard of guitars.
Hey,
that would be sick. Get some guitars, but we can get TVs. We can get TVs. They get your basic channels, radios, lamps, hot pot, clippers, stuff like that. And they just, right before I left, probably a year or two before I left, they introduced the state-issued tablets. So you could do video calls, and then they'd have little games, little games and little movies that you could buy for like $1 and stuff on there. And I think that was a good move, just to keep some people occupied, but we didn't have guitars or anything.
Man, so in Oregon, we were able to buy guitars. So that was like the first thing that I did. Like before I even bought a TV, because I've been playing music since I was 13 years old, and I was a drummer and I sang in a band. I toured a little bit with metal bands. So I bought the acoustic guitar right off rip, and then I met this old school heroin addict blues guitar player who had toured with, he'd done shows with Santana. He had pictures of himself on stage with Santana and Satriani and all these Wildcats. And I'm like, bro, I need you to teach me to play. He's like, cool, I got you. What's up, dog? So I learned just chords, bro, just so that I could sing and play at the same time. And I spent a lot of my prison set just writing crazy songs. It kept my time occupied. I bought a TV too, but plus the guitar strings, the end of the guitar strings you clip off, they make for great tattoo needles.
Were you the tattoo guy? I feel like you were the tattoo artist in there.
I can't draw a stick figure, bro. I'm going to be real honest with you. I was just getting some tattoos. What's up with the tattooing in South Carolina?
Well, it's in there. My whole time there, I came across one guy who was good enough to where I'm like, okay, I would let him, I would get a tattoo he does on my body. But I just didn't want to risk it, man, because, they don't have guitar strings. And I don't know, maybe it was just the guys specifically that I was around who did the tats, but they just weren't clean. They weren't clean people. They didn't seem to really prioritize, the hygiene of all the equipment. The needles, they would just take the staples out of paperwork and kind of grind them down. They didn't have any guitar strings, but, so they do that. And then, your ink, they'd take the chess pieces, the black chess pieces, and get the soot from that and all, and I guess the rigs, they usually came from the motors of like the clippers, the electric clippers. I never really messed with them or got any, but as far as I know, that's what they were doing. But I just never wanted to get involved with it because it always seemed like these tattoo artists just didn't have their business straight. They would book people, way overbook people, and overbook the wrong kinds of people to where everyone's going to be upset with you because you're not able to get everybody on time. You've probably already taken their money. You're way behind. You're all over the place, and they usually just end up getting themselves into a bunch of shit. And I just never wanted to be a part of it. I just never really got mixed up in it.
That's fair, dog. That makes sense. The Oregon system, we had such amazing artists there that, like, there were straight up COs that were getting sleeved out in cells, bro. Wow. There was one CO that I specifically, his sleeve came out so fire, bro. He was over on one of the blocks where they keep all the workers, and I refuse to work when I'm in Max, bro. Like, what are you going to do to me? There's nothing you can do to me. I already screwed up all my good time and earned time. You can't take no time from me. What are you going to put me in the hole for refusing a job in the kitchen? I'm not working for 30 cents a day. But these dudes over there, they let a lot more slide. And this CO, bro, straight from the hand all the way up, just in a cell, bro, like over like 3 or 4 days straight, just getting slung back from this inmate, bro. And the dude was good. It was stellar work.
That's sick. I would have loved to have somebody like that there. I just, it's just, maybe it was just bad luck, but I just never came across anybody who was really that good at it,
Yeah, absolutely. And, like the West Coast, I've noticed, like, I'm in Florida right now. The West Coast has so many wild, amazing tattoo artists, and it's been really hard for me to find people out here that are on that level. I think the West Coast just has like an artsier type of vibe to it, and people get down with the soul with their art. And so I don't know if it's like that on the streets in South Carolina, but that's how it is here in Florida. Like, it's few and far between that you find somebody who really puts down like a part of them in every piece of art that they do.
Yeah, down here I think it's just more trashy. Messed up something. I just think it's more trashy a little bit, and people they don't care what they get on them. They just want tattoos on them, and they don't care so much. They just want the name of their block and their hood on them. They don't care how it comes. They don't care what it looks like on there, as long as it's readable.
What's the worst tattoo you saw somebody get in there?
I don't even know, because I just never really paid too much attention to it. People just kind of show you, and it's just like, what am I going to say? That's terrible. But, I just like, oh, yeah, nice. Just, that shit's hard, man. But, maybe the people who they didn't have any face tats already, and you didn't have any business getting any, and then you get like a stick poke or something on there of just a totally terrible, like it looks like handwriting, like on your face somewhere, and it's just not good. I'm just like, man, I got one for you. I just realized, and this was not even in prison. This was in the county jail, but there was a white Crip named White Mike, your generic nickname, White Mike or something. And but he was a white Crip, and man, he stick poked his own tattoo. It was a C with the crown on it, right here in between his eyes on his forehead, and he did it in the mirror, and he did it backwards.
Oh no!
That's got to be the worst one. Yeah.
Damn. So the worst tattoo that I saw in there was actually the artwork was absolutely 100%. Like, I moved out of this tattoo artist's house we had been living together for months, and he did a bunch of work on me, and he was cool as hell, but we were just starting to get on each other's nerves. You know how when you're around somebody too much for too long, they just start like the way you breathe pisses me off, type of thing.
All right.
And like, so it was evident it was time to get another cell, because this dude, like, I didn't want to lose him as a friend. Plus, this dude was stabby. He landed with like 39 months to do and kept getting staff assaults for stabbing cops. So I'm like, we're gonna break up this little honeymoon before it turns into something bad. But the dude they moved into his cell turned out to be a snitch, bro. I had to go to him and tell him, hey, man, like, there's paperwork on your new cellie. He's a snitch, dog. I hate to tell you, man. And he's like, no, I appreciate it, brother. That's cool. So the next day I go out to Yard, and he goes, hey, go tell my cellie to show you his new tattoo. And I'm like, oh, fuck, bro. I knew it was going to be bad, right? So I walk up to him, and I'm like, hey, take off your shirt. Let me see your tattoo. And he goes, I don't want to. And I'm like, bro, I said, give me your shirt, bitch. Right? And the dude takes his shirt off. I grab his shirt out of his hand. Bro, he turns around and shows it to me. It is just a blinging, throbby veiner, bro, with wings, and it's like squirting out the front end. And it's big, bro. It's big. And he's like, give me my shirt back. And I'm like, absolutely fucking not. Walk the track, dog. Go catch some laps. And the cops were like walking behind him. Like, these COs are like clocking it, just going, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, everybody knew he did it, and he didn't even get written up for it. Like, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure they're like, yeah, if we go fuck with Matt, he's going to stab one of us. So they ended up taking that dude down to booking to take pictures of his tattoo. And then they just moved him into another cell. They were like, yeah, we're going to put you somewhere else where you're safe, buddy. But everybody called him Dick Wing. And then I saw him 3 prisons later, and I'm like, hey, and the dude next to me goes, yeah, that's Dick Wing. I'm like, they're still calling you Dick Wing. It's Dick Wing Duck. What's up, buddy?
Yeah. I was about to say, I thought you were about to say, like, he had finally gotten away, like, outran the nickname, and then here you come and just start it back up again.
Man, no, it stuck, bro. It stuck to him like stink on shit, bro. He had that bitch locked down. So let's talk about nicknames. I know going into prison, you're not supposed to be able to pick your own nickname. Everybody always asks me what my nickname was in prison. I rarely ever talk about it because I just think it's anticlimactic. But my nickname, people just called me Big Irish. Like, I'm big, I'm Irish. Yeah. It says it on my hands. You know what I'm saying? I was in a gang that was associated with Irish people. So it just really seemed like just Captain Obvious. What was your nickname in prison?
Oh, man, it was terrible. Well, like you said, you don't really get to pick, but and I think I saw one of your TikToks about this, about the nicknames, and it's like, you don't get to pick, but you can kind of influence it just a bit in the right direction. You know what I mean? And so my first day, it was the first day I got there. I just rolled out of bed, and my hair was kind of messed up, and I had like a bit of a cowlick going. And some guy across the rock was trying to get my attention, and I guess just lack of anything, not knowing what to call me, he said, "Hey, cowlick, come over here real quick." I said, "Oh," like I realized he's talking to me. I'm like, "Oh, no, all right. I'm spending 10 years here. It's not going to be going by cowlick." Okay, so I went over there, and people used to call me Dub, D-U-B, out on the streets because my last name starts with a W, so they just kind of called me P-Dub or Dub. So I went up to this guy, and I was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I was like, "By the way, you can call me Dub." And he's like, "Oh, okay, my bad, Dub." So we talk, whatever, and man, I'm telling you, I went for years by Dub, and I assumed I did, and I felt like everyone was calling me Dub, but we're kind of Southern down here, and you can hear things wrong a little bit. So as far as I know, the next 6-7 years, I went by Dub, and one day somebody wrote me a kite, because like you said, we kind of progressed, and we got cell phones, so people don't usually write kites that much more these days in my prison. But one day somebody sent me a kite, and it was addressed to Doug, D-O-U-G, Doug. And so I tell the runaround, I'm like, "Hey, man, I think you got the wrong room, Buster. I'm not Doug." And he's like, yeah, no, you're Doug. And I'm like, "No, I'm not Doug. I'm Dub." He's like, "No, he says it goes to you, man, Doug." So like, I'm freaking out. I'm like, "There's no way. Has everyone been calling me Doug this whole time? Is that what's been going on?" I came out of that cell when we got off lockdown, and I asked the whole dorm and everyone unanimously, "No, you're Doug. I thought that was your first name, Doug. I thought you just didn't even have a nickname. I thought you were just Doug." So you're telling me this whole time, this whole legacy that I leave behind is just as Doug. You know, my whole prison time, I was just known as fucking Doug.
Fucking Doug, bro.
Fucking Doug.
Yes.
That's my nickname, if you want to call it a nickname.
All right, let me ask you a little bit more of a serious question, because we talked about some of the fun stuff, some of the interesting stuff, but to me, like, this is the real point of a lot of the prison content that, like, when I talk to other creators, I like to get to. What did you see in prison as far as programs to help you succeed when you got out? Did you have anything?
Well, yeah, they do, and I think the majority of it, as you may know, or it may be similar, they look good on paper. A lot of these programs look great on paper. They look great on the website. Like, if your people, I remember my mom would call me, or not call me, but when we had our calls and stuff, she'd be like, "Why are you not taking part in any of these great programs I'm seeing on this website? They got this and this." And I'm like, "Mom, those programs suck." You know, I'm not, you know, like, you show up, if you can even get there. I mean, they're going to be like a class a week, and you might make it that week because probably somebody's going to get stabbed on the yard, and the yard's going to be on lockdown, and that class is canceled for the week. So you might make 2 a month. And when you get there, it's like some guy who just doesn't really even care, usually, or it's, you know, everyone who's coming there is just using it as an opportunity to meet with inmates who otherwise you wouldn't have, like, an opportunity to meet with, just so you can do whatever, do business and pass stuff off, or get messages, you know, just handle business. You know, it's not like a learning environment for learning these skills and trades, but that's most of it. But there were a few things, and it's interesting you mentioned that you started out on a minimum camp. I did too. It was the same thing. I had no prison history. I was young. Of course, I didn't have any disciplinaries. I had just gotten there, and I wasn't STG. I wasn't classified, you know, as being in any gang, and I had, you know, 10 years. So I went to a minimum camp at first, and that's where they have a lot more, I think, programs that are worthwhile and are actually going to be able to teach you a trade and a skill. So I know they had a small engine repair classes, and you could definitely, you know, I went to that. See, I stayed on that yard for about 9 months, but everyone else there's got about 6 months left, and they're going home. I was there. I still had my whole time to do, and I just knew I wasn't going to make it. I mean, you know, you're getting in fights and stuff. So, you know, I lasted about 8-9 months, which I thought was pretty good. But while I was there, I mean, I went into a small engines repair class, and I learned a lot about that. You know, so, I mean, that was definitely something that could teach you stuff. They had, I don't know, brick masonry. They had brick masonry out there, and a lot of guys learned how to do, you know, brick masonry. So, I mean, they definitely taught you some trades and some skills. If you really want to take it serious and you really want to, like, learn something and let me take this out there and just try to, you know, make a living for myself the right way, if you pay attention and really put that effort in, then yeah, they do have it. But I feel like it's more on the yards where not everybody's going to have that opportunity to go. You know, some guys, like with a lot of 20 years or 15 years, they're not going to ever get a chance really to make it to these minimum camps. And you know, all the other classes that they probably do have access to, just not really nothing there. I mean, it's nothing.
I'm not even going to lie. Even with the limited availability, that's the best answer that I've gotten from anyone out of the people that I've asked so far. And there was one indiscrepancy. I started at minimum custody, but they didn't send me to a minimum custody joint. They sent me out to gladiator school with minimum custody because they decided that I was in a gang. So I ended up at the end of my sentence at minimum custody joints. So that's like when you would like, it would be most relevant to get programming because you're about to go out to the streets. And I'm like, yo, so does this mean that, like, you know, I'm going to get to learn how to make my own resume or file my taxes or, you know, apply for housing? And they're like, absolutely not. We're not teaching you any of that stuff. It's kick rocks, kid.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. They ended up, you know, throwing me a check for $50 and a bus ticket. And kicked me out, and the cop told me, "You'll be back, DeLay. We're leaving a bed open for you." And I told him to eat a bag of funky discolored dicks. And I came damn close, but I never went back. So,
That's great, man. Hey, that's
So-
great. I mean, and sometimes I think it comes down to, especially like we've said here, I mean, with that limited, if you're not going to find help from the classes or what they do provide or claim to provide, you can still rehabilitate yourself, but you're going to be doing it yourself. And you got to have that willpower. You got to want, and like years ahead of your release, you have to want and prepare way ahead of time to really go out there and do it. You know what I mean? But you definitely can. I think it's just about wanting to. And a lot of people, I feel like they don't want to. They want to they can't wait to get back out to them streets and do what they were doing and get right back in the mix and join the party, and they come back so quick because of that. But, you can still do it yourself.
1,000%, my man. Let me ask you this. If there was one major aspect to prison reform that you could push for, like one thing that you would like to see to try to help people do better when they get out, what would that be?
I mean, deliver with what you're advertising. These kind of just sham programs that they're claiming that they have. I mean, actually make them what you're claiming they are, and maybe they can help people. Make it not so hard to even like participate and get in these classes to where people can learn something if they want to. On top of that, I mean, you can have these trades and you can have these skills, and then you get out and you can't get hired anywhere, and maybe set something up. I mean, I'm no expert, but I mean, set something up to where these felons, and maybe they do, that I don't know about, but it just makes sense to me to where, I mean, get something figured out with some agency or some workforce to get these guys who actually, if they get the certificates, they completed these classes, they learn these skills, have some crews ready for these guys when they get out. So they can get straight to work, because, I mean, if they're going out and looking by themselves and it takes a few weeks, I mean, that's all it takes to slip back into the wrong direction out there, and on top of that, I think definitely the mental health needs to be addressed 100%. The stuff that prison does to you mentally, just in so many ways, from so many angles, and there's no one there to help you unless you want to like just get drugged up or want to get put on some type of tranquilizers or something, and that's not going to help anything. I mean, you want these guys to not go back there and get back out and not depend on substances and just self-medicate. All you're doing in there is medicating them. There's no one there to talk to these guys about what they've been through, what they've seen, what they've done, what they've had done to them. And just all the mental challenges and exhaustion this puts on you, and how to go from this extreme to the world again. There's no one there to actually sit down and help you. They're just there to medicate you.
1,000%, bro. That was right on time, man. I agreed with every word. So thank you guys for coming out. We're going to be doing more content together, I hope, soon. I love what you do, and I'm really stoked to be connected with you, brother. I'm going to put every single one of the links to everything that Jumpsuit is doing in the description of this video. You guys should all go follow him. Like, his content absolutely inspires me. I watch every single piece of his that comes across my phone or my laptop. I appreciate each and every one of you guys riding out with me. I'll see you on the next one. Be good or be good at it, y'all. Look, y'all know I love tattoos just as much as the next guy, but a little advice that I would give you as a tattoo enthusiast is don't do your own face tattoo.